Us different, they're the things that make us free. In spirit we are many, now we see. We are one, we are one, and the dance of all creation has begun. We're so much younger than tomorrow, more ancient than the sun. In spirit we are many, and we are one. Ooh, ooh. We are one, we are one. That sweet dance of all creation has begun. So much younger than tomorrow, more ancient than the sun. In spirit we are many, and we are all one. Ooh.
Please join me in prayer. We know that there's one perfect life that permeates all creation, including our Mother Earth, which nurtures and protects us. That power is God. It is perfect, whole, and complete in form and substance. It is a power that makes things out of itself, including each and every one of us within the sound of my voice. We are all perfect, whole, and complete in form and substance. And what we come here together to celebrate is that wonderful mother we call Earth that nurtures and protects us. We are here to celebrate the magnificence that each and every one of us is. And I know that everything that takes place here in this space, this day, will be perfect in every way. I am very grateful for our musician, Karen, for our tech wizard, Travis, for our hospitality team, for our practitioners, for our ushers. And I'm very grateful for our Dennise, through whom Spirit will speak and deliver a message that everyone within the sound of my voice needs to hear at this time and in this place and on this day. And I give thanks for every beautiful expression of the divine that sits here, that I am facing in this moment of time, and for every perfect being that will hear this message as unique and wonderful expressions of that divine light. And I release these words into that law that knows how to mold, make, shape, and create all the good there is, right here and right now. I let this go and I let it be. Together we affirm, and so it is. Our first words of inspiration come from Frederick and Marianne Broussard. Protect the Earth's future by promoting peace every day. Your small steps will link you to others who are combating violence in the world. Our second set comes from Frank Ostaszewski. When we argue with reality, we lose every time. We waste our energy and exhaust ourselves with the insistence that it be otherwise. From our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes, nature is governed by immutable laws, of which the ignorance of which excuses no one from these effects.
I'm going to make a few more announcements, not that Mickey didn't do a wonderful job, because she did, but not everybody was aware of all the things I was doing this week. A few weeks ago, the amazing Russell and a friend, don't know exactly who that was, put together the November Gratitude Challenge. We are in November, it's Thanksgiving. There's a gratitude challenge out there. It has a weekly theme for the gratitude challenge. The sheets are laying out on the practitioner table. If you want to play along, grab one on your way out. It lasts all month. The other thing that's out there next to it is little certificates where you can write down something that you feel grateful for on your way in or your way out today, whichever. Has a place to write it down, also has a place to put your name if you choose, and it also has a place to mark for permission to share. And then next week, after our words of inspiration, either Russell and I or I will be giving, we'll share some of the good that you guys are writing down that's happening in the world. I'm sure that Mickey's going to have glowing reports of how well the trunk sale went and how good it's going to be for New Dawn all the way around. Tuesday, we do have prayer meeting every week. This week, we aren't doing the Zoom one. It'll all be here in the sanctuary. But I want to address this a little bit. With deep love. What we're doing on Tuesday has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with politics. There will be no talking of politics. There will be no pitching of candidates. There will be no asking who'd you vote for. We don't want to talk about vote. We want to be together in this beautiful, loving, supportive space that is New Dawn. And at the same time, we are also partnering with Mountain View. So Pastor Tracy and her people will also be here. Every half hour, or maybe more often, depending on how many people show up, we'll have someone get up and offer a prayer. And it won't be a prayer for the candidates or the race. It'll be a prayer for our country and our own peace of mind through the day. Just so that I could make that very clear today, it's not about politics and parties. This is a no politics zone in this room especially, but in this building. I think that was good. Mickey, you did a wonderful job with announcements. Are you in? I know, I could tell. And you did a marvelous job, so thank you very much. So, I didn't hold up the cute little sheets. See, there's the sheet. I got behind. Here's the little certificates for you guys to write your gratitude on. If you want to just turn it in, you could turn it in. If you don't want it shared, don't mark yes at the bottom. We won't rat you out. Sound good? The last thing I got to say before I get started with this talk is this is not my talk. When I was in Maui over the summer, I went to Unity of Maui that day, and the amazing Reverend Blaine Tinsley gave this talk. And I asked him if I could use it because I thought it was one of the best talks I'd ever heard, and I think it's so incredibly pertinent, especially at this time on this planet. So, I didn't write this. I added stuff to it. I put my own slides, and I made a few changes, but it's not all mine. There we go. Oh, and I wanted to welcome my friend Mary here. Just came in again. Mary and I go way back from when I worked at Mile High and I ran the Wisdom Keepers group. And I ran it every other Thursday on Zoom, which was good. That's how I got to meet Mary, because she lived in St. Louis, and she was my most regular attendee, and I just love her to pieces. And she moved to Denver about in March, I think she said, and she was looking for me at Mile High, and Dr. Michelle gave her my number, and we connected and had lunch earlier this week. And I convinced her, because she lives in Aurora, that she needed to come join us. And so here she is. Make her feel welcome. Okay, so I'm going to do some reading because, again, like I said, when I quote things, I like to make sure I'm correct. This is written by Lena, a 6th grader from Southern California. She writes, I'm going to write about something really important. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. GPGP, this is a huge area in the Pacific Ocean filled with tons of plastic and trash. Imagine a giant soup of plastic bits and pieces floating around the middle of the ocean. It is twice the size of Texas. That's really big, right? You might ask me, well, what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is. The GPGP is like a giant trash island in the ocean. But it's not an island you can walk on, it's more like soup. It's made up of tiny pieces called microplastics. These come from things like plastic bottles, bags, fishing nets, and then they break down into smaller and smaller pieces. Even though we can't always see them, they cause a lot of problems. Why is it a problem? Animals like fish and turtles and birds think that the plastic is food. When they eat it, they could get very sick or even die because their stomachs could fill with plastic instead of real food. Imagine eating plastic instead of your lunch. Yuck. Sounds like a 6th grader wrote it, right? Yuck. The plastic and the GPGP doesn't go away. It just keeps on breaking down into smaller pieces, but it never completely disappears. This means the pollution stays in the ocean for a very long time. I think that everything in nature is connected. When we throw away plastic and it ends up in the ocean, it affects all living things. If fish eat the plastic and then we eat the fish, the plastic has come back to us. Because we're all part of the same big web of life. I believe that we have a special responsibility to take care of our planet because we're all connected. Lena asks, what does the Great Pacific Garbage Patch tell us about our collective impact on this planet? What does it tell us about ourselves? That we can continue to let this grow and multiply, and that we don't care enough to monitor our own behavior. How do we humans look at the pictures of it and not try to do something about it. It draws me in every time I look at the picture, and there are so many pictures on the web of this mess. And it draws me in, and it makes me sick to my stomach. It really does. So, here is a picture of the main place where it's located. And there's actually 2 of them floating around between Japan and California. So how do we humans see ourselves in relationship to nature? Are we separate or are we connected? You know, traditionally humans have viewed themselves as separate from nature. I think our opinion about that is changing in some circles. So we've seen nature primarily as a resource to be used. This anthropocentric, not a word I'd ever used before, view places humans at the center and nature as a backdrop for human behavior and human activity. So this talk is titled The Ecological Self for a reason. Freya Matthews, is an Australian philosopher who challenges the dominant view of the West. She wrote the book, Your Ecological Self. I just got this a few days ago, and it is a darn good read. I'm willing to loan it out when I'm complete. The Western view is predominantly of the self as separate and independent. Instead, she proposes that the concept of the ecological self recognizes the intrinsic and nature and sentience of all beings, and sees human beings as part of the larger interconnected whole. Matthews is a distinguished environmental philosopher whose work has profoundly shaped our understanding of the natural world and our place in it. Her ideas offer us new ways of thinking about our role as human beings and looking beyond the sort of individualism that we have tended to embrace. To look at a larger scope, a broader scope, and the interconnectedness of all life. The ecological self is about recognizing that we are not separate from nature, rather we are an integral part of it. We are part of it. It is connected to us, and we are connected to it. It is the absolute essence of who we really are, who you are. Do you know what challenges this view? Living in a world where human beings think that they can dominate and just use the environment however they like. Imagine that you're walking through a beautiful forest or on the beach, and you see the trees, and you see the birds, and you see the wildlife, and you hear the stream or you hear the waves. Imagine all of those elements aren't just part of the scenery, but they are expressions and extensions of your very beingness. The ecological self means seeing ourselves as deeply connected with all forms of life. This perspective fosters a sense of unity and shared responsibility, reminding us that the well-being of our environment is directly tied to our own well-being. Freya Matthews urges us to understand that every action we take impacts the web of life in which we belong and live. When we harm the environment, we are in essence harming ourselves. Let's go away. This interconnectedness implies a profound responsibility to protect the natural world. It calls for us to shift our attitudes and to shift our values and to shift our behavior, to move from an exploitation attitude to one of stewardship and giving back. Many teachers emphasize this interconnectedness. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, says we are all strands in the web of life that what happens to one strand affects the whole. taking that on. We are here to awaken from the illusion of separateness, not only from God and each other, but to every living being. And our planet, like Russell said, is a living being. Swami Vivekananda said, "The whole universe is one. There is only one self in the universe, only one existence." Isn't that basically what we are saying every Sunday in this room? We are all one. We are all completely connected. Not unlike that is what Chief Seattle said. He said, "All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of earth." And the Hopi philosophy, there is a prophecy that says, we are all part of a web, each a strand in that web. And whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. So if we are connected to nature, and if we are connected to all life, what responsibilities do we have? I think we have the responsibility of stewardship to protect and preserve our habitat by conserving resources and eliminating pollution. I think that we have an obligation to respect all life, to treat all living creatures with compassion, and ensure the protection of biodiversity. I believe that we have a responsibility for restoration and healing this beautiful planet from the damage that's already done, and not perpetrating any further damage whenever and however we can. We are the ones that are responsible for repairing environmental damage and combating climate change. We are responsible for education and advocacy. We need to raise our awareness and advocate for policies that protect the environment. I believe that we need to have mindful consumption, to reduce consumption, and to make ethical choices to minimize the environmental impact. I believe we should get involved in our community. We should engage and support local environmental initiatives and sustainable practices. And last but not least, and I think most important, is to cultivate our relationship with nature, right? To be in it, to love it, to embrace it and embody it, to feel it and enjoy it and recognize who we are. It is who we are. It is part of us. So you guys have heard the story of Julia Butterfly Hill. She's a renowned environmental activist whose views and actions reflect the principles of an ecological self. You might remember in December 1997, she climbed up a 1,000-year-old tree and lived in that tree without setting foot on the ground again for 738 days. That is over 2 years. To keep the tree, so that's her, and there's the tree, named Luna, from being harvested by logging, and the area around it as well. Her activism led to significant outcomes. In creating a buffer zone around this tree, she really brought to our awareness what's being done with forestation and deforestation. And she promoted sustainable logging practices. But there are examples everywhere, because I see a lot of really beautiful people in this room, a lot of them with some good drive, but I don't see any of us climbing a tree for over 2 years. We may have to come up with something a little less ambitious, but at that point, we're trying, right? So what can we do to embrace our ecological self? I got some ideas, and they all fit in the acronym for EMBRACE. The first, E, educate ourselves and educate others to become aware of what's going on in the world. Nobody in this room knew about that Great Pacific garbage patch before I showed that picture, did they? We need to know what's going on in our world and what we can do to help wherever you live and whatever your community is. The second thing we do for the M in Embrace is to practice mindful consumption, to reduce, reuse, recycle, and to be aware of our consumption habits. The B in Embrace stands for become active in your community to really discover what's happening and where you are and what's happening in your community. And how you can make a difference by participating in cleanups. What can we do to make an impact on our own environment right here in Colorado? R in our word Embrace stands for reverence for nature. Reverence for nature, and this is really like I mentioned earlier, just be in it. Enjoy it, feel it, recognize that it is you. It is a part of us. And when you're in it, embrace that feeling and feel the love for it. Just open your heart to this amazing gift. We live in one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And we need to love it and accept it and protect it just as much as we can, have reverence for it. The A in Embrace, be an advocate for change. You know, somebody mentioned to me earlier this week that they had gone to physical therapy. And when they walked into physical therapy, the physical therapist handed them a water bottle. And she said, "Isn't that great?" And I said, "No, not really. You go into Costco and you look around at the shelves and you watch people carrying out boxes and pallets of plastic that's going to go somewhere, and it's not going to go away. One thing we can do is each of us have one of these nifty things, a little water bottle that we carry around. Now, I'm not shaming anybody with this because I'm guilty too. There's always a case of water in my garage. Now, what we do with the water is hand it to the mailman or the trash collector when he comes by, instead of a metal water bottle. I hand it to guests when they come over. Cut down on my dish doing later. That's probably a habit that needs to stop. It's like, why don't we care enough to make that one little change? Have we just become kind of lazy? And then the C, consider your ecological footprint. What are you personally doing, and how are you personally living? And how could you be contributing to a bigger or smaller ecological footprint? And now, and I think most importantly, I guess I shouldn't talk about politics in class, but I don't think this is really politics. We need to vote for people who want to improve the environment, right? That's where we have the biggest voice. We have a significant voice, and we all get to exercise that. This week, we get to exercise that. It's too big of a problem not to. So what is our call to action? I believe it is to do some things differently. We're not going to any one of us fix the problem as it stands now, but we can each do our own little part, and we talk about that here every Sunday as well. Building a world that works for everyone, one consciousness at a time. And it may just be the 30 consciousness sitting in this room, but I know that this makes a difference to people. And our little pieces and parts that we do out in the world to protect our planet are just as important as the consciousness that we're building in here. And speak to young people about it, right? We all know some little people that we love. We know some little people that we don't always rub us the right way, but we have little people that we love. And is this the kind of planet we want to leave for those little people? Is this how we want our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren to live? My granddaughters love the ocean. I can't imagine if they saw what we saw today, how they would feel about it. And I know that those little people will basically about slap grandma's hand if she tries to hand them a plastic water bottle, because they always know where their metal water bottle is. You can help to make it be that way. We all have an obligation to embrace and educate about mindful consumption, become active, have a reverence for nature, be an advocate for change, consider your ecological footprint, and empower future generations by teaching them to embrace these same actions. We can live in harmony with our ecological selves because we have a radical responsibility to our own selves and to this planet and to the well-being of all life. So let's commit to making these changes today, to be an active participant today, to inspire others to join us in this vision. I want to end today with not my prayer, but with a prayer by Jane Goodall. We come before you with hearts full of gratitude for the beauty and diversity of life that surrounds us as we ask for your guidance and strength as we strive to protect all living beings who share this planet with us. Grant us the wisdom to see the interconnectedness of all life and the courage to defend the voiceless and the vulnerable. Help us to recognize the sacredness in every creature and treat each one with kindness and respect. May our actions reflect our deep commitment to the well-being of all species, and may we work tirelessly to ensure that every life is cherished and protected. I know that this has been a different kind of talk than I've given before, but I thought it was something we all would like to hear. And so I'm very grateful for each and every one of you for supporting me in offering this to you today. I know we can do a better job, and I know we already are. Let's anchor it in by saying, and so it is.